Hello, my name is Debbie, Owlandgatorstitcher. Welcome to Flosstube number 55. Today is Wednesday, June 28th, 2023. This is a video mainly about cross stitch, sometimes about what I'm reading and watching as well. It's been almost 3 weeks since my last video, so thank you for coming back if you're a returning viewer. And if you're a new viewer, welcome. I hope that you like what you see, and if you do, click on that subscribe button. So it's been about 3 weeks, as I just mentioned, and it's been a lot of fun for the past 3 weeks. My husband and I celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, actually 2 weeks ago from today, and we celebrated by going to Puerto Rico. It was our first time going there, and we had a blast. Beautiful island, wonderful people. We were only there for a few days. We're in Florida, so it's not that hard for us to get there, although coming back we did get stuck in some thunderstorms, and we made it home when we were only landed about an hour late, which is better than some of the other flights which got diverted and didn't make it at all. So we were happy to make it back, even though we didn't get home until about 1 in the morning. And given that I go to bed early, 1 is really late for me. I know for some of you, you're night owls, and that's when I just started stitching. But anyhow, we had a great trip. And we really do hope to go back to Puerto Rico at some point. We did not stay in San Juan. We stayed at a resort about an hour outside of San Juan. We did get into Old San Juan one day and walked around. The only issue I had was I think there were 2 cruise ships in that day, so it was really, really crowded, and we didn't get a chance to see a lot of the stuff just because there were so many people milling around. But definitely want to go back at some point. We had, I think, a few months ago, I mentioned that we were planning to do a much bigger trip, but that did not pan out. I had applied for my passport, and I'm sure for those of you who follow these things, the wait for U.S. passports is actually quite long right now. I used to work for the State Department, so I know what goes on more or less behind the scenes, but it's just hit one of those years where sort of the perfect storm and a lot of things are happening at the same time. And so they just didn't have the staff to meet demands. And it's not like you can just pull someone off one job and tell them go adjudicate passports. There's a lot more that goes into it. We even though we could have booked a trip and just waited for the passport to come, we knew it was going to come in time. We just decided not to deal with it. And because if you're booking an international airline ticket, you do need to put your passport number in. You can go and change it later. But if there's technology, I'm going to mess it up. So anyhow, we decided that we wanted to travel someplace that we didn't require a passport. Puerto Rico, I'm sure as all of you know, is a territory of the United States. And so you don't need a passport to travel there. Or if you're a U.S. citizen or going from the U.S., you don't need a passport to travel there. All right. So that is what has been going on 20 years. Great. Really happy. I picked the right guy, as I say. People say, how do you make it 20 years? And I'm like, choose wisely. But then my parents yesterday celebrated their 59th anniversary. So, I guess they chose wisely as well. It's not so much about finding the perfect person as finding the perfect person who is perfect for you. And sorry about the light coming in and out. Hold on a second. I wasn't sure if it was recording again. I had hoped to use natural light for this, but the sun is going in and out behind the clouds, and that's why we were getting some darkness. So I just went ahead and turned the light on. With that, I'm going to go ahead and start to show you some of my stitching. So I just want to show you one thing really quickly. Well, I was going to try and show you the cat, but she is not cooperating. My Cayo, my tabby, she is very shy, and I was going to even try and pick her up and show it to you because I've gotten some complaints that I keep talking about cats and not showing them, but she wasn't going to cooperate today. So with that said, I think I need to go ahead and start to show you some stitching. So I actually have 2 finishes. I know, who am I? I had 1 in my last video and now 2 more. So the first one is a really small one. This I decided to do for the stitching summer camp that Colorado Cross Stitcher runs. And so here is my start and finish. And so this is just, we had to pick a theme of birds. So we got 2 little birds at the top there. And this was a freebie from the Stitching Book Club. So I started this before I went on vacation, and then I think I finished this about in 2 or 3 days while I was on vacation. Because I had just packed up some colors and went. I went on my trip. One thing, and it's not showing up in the video, but it was very obvious when I was stitching on it, that sort of darker green. Actually, so it's DMC 470. All of this uses DMC. But for basically what I had done was I had some that was bobbinated, and I just work out of a master set. And I had a bobbin that I took And then there were a few strands that were in my container where I have the master set that were just have been cut off a skein at some point. And so I just threw those in there and started using the cut ones first before I went on to the bobbin. And that clearly did not come from the bobbin, and it was actually significantly darker than what was on the bobbin, but that was all I had left. I made a decision I wasn't going to rip it out. This is a small one. Again, you can't really, or I don't think you can see it on the video at all. When I was stitching with it, obviously when you're staring at it that up close, it's really, you can notice it. I probably will notice it again in the future, but it will probably only be glaring to me. I think to most people, they won't notice it at all whenever I get around to FFOing this, whenever that may be. I think this is a great candidate for like a flat fold or an ornament. I mean, it is, you can see my hand, it is quite small. The other thing was, obviously this is all symmetrical, and somewhere down here I made a mistake and I started counting off. And so I had to do a lot of ripping out in order to bring it back, because I probably could have gotten away with it except until I came to put this in here, and then that's what would have made it clear there was a mistake and it wasn't symmetrical. But again, this is a scrap piece of Ada that I had. I probably got it from my grab bag. I think it's either 16 or 18 count. Very easy to stitch on and lovely, lovely pattern. And I had to open the door. Once again, apologies for the pause, but the cat was scratching at the door and she scratches on the carpet and it just would have gotten loud and annoying. So anyhow, that was my first finish, and it was actually a start and a finish since my last video. And so now for my second finish, which was not a start and a finish. I'm very happy with this one. This is Gone Baddie from With Thy Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais. So this was actually a mania start in 2020. So May 2020 is when I started it. And I stalled for a while on it because I did a center start because I thought I was playing fabric chicken on the edges, although I have at least 2 inches, if not more. So clearly that wasn't an issue. But I started with that bat, and then I just started working on the cat. And then with about a row left to go on the cat, I ran out of that color. It took me a while to get that color, and then I was concerned that, maybe it won't match. So I just sort of put this aside for a while. And then when I finally picked it up, I think early this year, I realized it totally matched. And so I had, a few long stitching sessions on this and finally got it finished. So I'm very happy. So that is Gone Baddie. And one of the things I really love about this one, and I didn't realize this was one of the last motifs I stitched, the bat has got a candy corn necklace. So I thought that was really cute. I know. Some of you hate candy corn. It makes your skin crawl. I love it. So, okay. So that is it for my finishes. I also had a couple new starts that I have interspersed with my stitching that I'm going to go ahead and show you. So the first piece I started, this is called, I think, Ruffled Feathers. This is from Lindy Stitches. And this is actually going to be an online class. So I purchased the kit version. So basically in the kit, you don't get this. It's going to be a needle book. It's resting on a tray. The tray is not part of it. And I didn't bring all the kit materials over here. But you get, it's Stephanie is from Lindy Stitches is doing it in collaboration with Lois from, it's not Dot Goose. Why am I blanking? Lady Dot Creates, yes. Sorry. So she's doing it in collaboration with her. So then you got all of the trims and everything else. And I think Lois is actually teaching the class. So it's going to be a live class held in July. But but it will be recorded in case people miss parts of it, either because they can't make the time or they want to rewatch parts of it because they didn't get it. That's probably going to be me because sewing is not my strong suit. Although, while I'm not going to become a quilter or anything like that. I would, at some point like to learn a little bit more sewing so I can do my own finishing and just a little bit more. So I think, and I did take, when I went to the Quilter Station retreat last year, Lois showed up as a surprise guest and she gave us a project and she did a very good job of explaining it. I actually didn't do the project. I gave it to a friend of mine. But she really broke it down step by step, so much so that my friend was able to do it without having gone to the class. Just follow, my friend sews, but just following the written instructions, she was able to do it. So anyhow, here's where I am on this. So, oops. So it came with the floss, the fabric. Doesn't come with every single thing you need. I think you have to have your own sewing needles and certainly your own stitching needles. And then I think like there's some gluing involved, so you have to have your own glue. But it comes with all of the trim and the batting, and I think there are mat boards and the felts and all that kind of stuff. It comes with it. And you could customize this. So here, she has an L here. I don't know if that's for Lois, if that's for Lindy Stitches. I don't know what the L actually stands for, but she gives you the whole alphabet, and you can just do it blank. I chose to put D in there for my name. And although that was a lot harder, I really didn't think it through. And I started working on this. I think this is 3811. Started working on this and thought, okay, I'll just fill in the D when I'm done. And because the D was on a separate piece of paper, Stephanie had suggested cutting it out and pasting it on, but I didn't want to have to cut. I didn't want to cut into my paper. And but it was also, I think it was a 20 by 20 square, and it didn't line up with the grid pattern, and I just was getting lost. So I got a few rows in, realized I was totally off somewhere, and then I just started, so I stopped working with the 3811, went and filled in the D, and then just went around it, and that made my life so much easier. So it's a relatively small pattern, but I have to finish all the stitching by July 22nd so that I can have this ready for the class. So that is my second project. That's my first new start. So then my next piece that I worked on, this is Little Cake Shop, artwork by Amy Stewart, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And this was supposed to be for full coverage fanatics. The color challenge, where every month there's a new color. If you have to have an object of that color. So there was a little purple cart in there, and purple was the color this month. I didn't work on anything purple, and I didn't, usually I try and get quite a bit of progress. And this, I probably got like 600 stitches in. And so it all went into like the ceiling here. But I'm making good progress in the ceiling. You can see this is where the molding, and then it comes, and I think about here is where it starts to go up again. So I made some really good progress on getting a lot of the blues into that ceiling. I may have put some of the browns in here as well. So, love working on this project, and I just think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew this month with my games. I started the month trying to get, because one of my groups was see how many finishes you can get, which is part of the reason why I finished Gone Baddie as well. But I started off the month working on something that was a small, but it needed a lot of stitches to get finished. And that sort of threw off my rhythm for the month, and I don't regret finishing it. It was a really great pattern, but it did mean that some of the other things I'd like to do as a result, I didn't get to. So that is Little Cake Shop. Next project I have that I pulled out is one I haven't worked on in probably about a year, and I have over 60 active works in progress right now. So obviously a lot of things don't get touched all the time. But I also don't like things to languish, and this one has probably been languishing for about a year. So I wanted to get some more stitches on it. This is the 2020 Pandemic Sampler. This was a freebie from Sarcy Girl, and it's a lovely sampler that she gifted the pattern to all of us. So I only put in a couple hundred stitches, and I hope to get a chance to work on this again in the next few days. But basically I just pulled out and worked on some of the orange. So I think I already had that flower, but like this big flower, definitely this part here, these little beady things here, and then there's a large flower pot here. So this is the beginning of one of the flowers. And this is so much fun when I pick it up and stitch on it. It's symmetrical, but just also it's the way the logic of it flows. And it's just so, here I just would start and then go up and down and up and down and then across and then same. And it's very easy and fun to stitch. And this is a 32 count even weave from Fortnite Fabrics. Let's see the color name. It's Panther Cap. So hope to have a chance to put a few more stitches in this before it goes away again for a while. Next project that I worked on was a portrait of Veronica from Mirabilia. So this is one of the focus whips that I have for this year. I would like to get I'm not sure I'm going to get this done this year, but I would like to make a lot of progress on it. And so I can't remember the last time I showed it to you. This is what happens when I have 3 weeks in between my videos. But I certainly have put in probably about 500 stitches since the last time. So I know I put all this black in here and then a little bit of color up here. This is the very bottom of the pattern. So it doesn't go down any more than that. This is actually, so this is like the bottom of her dress. And then I guess the ruching or the ruffles or whatever, it's got a huge sort of train that comes over here. So this is actually part of the train. So even though this right now looks a bit strange and it feels like there should be something there, that actually is a gap. And then, so this is a lot of dark here, and then this will be paler colors here. So I'm going to, next month, continue working on this and sort of over here so that I can sort of really see the bottom of the ruffling in the pattern, or ruching, whatever it's called on a dress, sort of come to life. So that is Portrait of Veronica. Next one I have, this is 3 dancers from Stitching Jules Designs. And this pattern was gifted to me from Jules, from Stitching Jules Designs. She gave to Flosstubers who have under 1,000 subscribers, or at least at the time that she made the offer. A number of people have jumped up over the 1,000 mark now. But basically she gifted to us and just said, you know, we used our own materials, but she said, please work on it and show it in your video. So I'm very happy to do it. I love working on the colors. So this I predominantly put in the orange color here and some of the yellow here. So right now, really working on the background and some of the orange because it was all my needle got pulled up over there. And this is the very bottom of the pattern. So I haven't, you know, technically I haven't hit the corner because the corner stitch, whatever color that is, I'm sure it's another shade of orange. I haven't pulled it out yet, but obviously no issues about hitting it. So now I've hit basically 3 of the 4 corners. And I'm probably at 55% on this pattern. It is a full coverage, but it is a relatively small full coverage with about 26,000 stitches. Next piece I worked on is Midnight Vigil. This is artwork by Lisa Parker. This is the mini version and charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And here is where I worked on it. So basically I did some of the black up here, and then I did some just sort of to give a little bit more shape, put in some of the blue here. I'm also in one of my groups doing sort of a color challenge where put like in sets of 200 each day, you put in a color, and then like if they happen to draw that color, you have one, you know, it's like, yay, I am not beating the odds. I think I've put in about 60 and I've gotten 4, and I think they have about 10 colors on there. Not doing well, but it's okay. It's fun. But anyhow, this pattern, you can sort of see this is, you can see, I love that eye. Lisa Parker's artwork is really, if you like cats, it's just really stunning and realistic because it's not just, oh, that's a cat, but just the way that she puts expressions on the cats. It's quite remarkable. And so this is actually the reflection of the cat, and this is the back of the cat's head. The pattern goes, I would say I probably have 10 to 12 more columns, and I mean like individual like stitches across, not the 10 block grids. So it probably ends right about here. So I'll be happy to sort of go across and hit that soon. So that is Midnight Vigil. Next piece had a birthday this month, so I always try and pull up pieces on their birthday. And this is White Owl from Artisy, artwork by Kayomi Harai. Sorry, I think I may have inverted her name. So there's that piece. And what I did this time, I worked over here. So I had some, sorry, I'm just trying to get this in a way where I can, I'll show the whole thing at the end. So this is a page finish. I had originally started this, printed out the paper copy, although now it's on Pattern Keeper. And so I have been doing it page by page. I did the moon. I know I have a mistake in the moon somewhere. I was fine with it, but I just needed to make sure that the mistake in the moon didn't translate somehow to being like extra row or missing a row or something like that. So what I had done, these were probably colors that had extended when I was doing this page. I don't like to stop in the middle of a color. So what I did was I just took one color. I think this is 414, stitched it in, and it was, being very careful, like just, having multiple markers. So this is going into the wing of the owl, and determined that was indeed, like, say this stitch here, matched both here and here, which made me feel more confident, like when I counted down and counted multiple times off multiple stitches, that whatever mistakes I made in the moon did not affect the area around it. So I was sort of safe to stitch it. I'm not so concerned about the background. I'm more concerned about the placement of the owl, and when it comes down to meet up, that it will be correct. I also did some of the blue up here because this was a lot of counting, and I just needed something that was a little bit easier. So here is the whole thing that I've done. I think I'm about 25% of this. And this is just an 18 count Ada. Okay. And now Cayo's coming to investigate. She realizes that I may have been a little irked with her. We'll see if she wants to. Let's see if I can actually do this. Hold on. There's Cayo. You gonna be camera shy? She's gonna be camera shy. Okay, I tried to get Cayo in. You got a brief glimpse of her. She actually is a very loving cat. She just had some trauma as a kitten, and certainly being picked up she doesn't like, but she will cuddle with me at times, but it has to be on her terms, not my terms, and clearly trying to get in the video is my terms. Okay, next piece I worked on is Grand Library. This is supersized max color, Heaven and Earth Designs, also artwork also by Amy Stewart, like Little Cake Shop. I am down in this corner here and at a little bit over 1%. This is 715,000 stitches, so my largest piece, and 1% is about 7,000 stitches, over 7,000 stitches, so it just takes a long time. So anyhow, what I worked on this time was this book here, this open book here. So basically, these are a lot of dark grays and dark purples, and these are sort of more lavender colors, so that I kept, I'm working my way up. So my goal is to sort of get these two books done, and then there's a little man here that has a painting under his arm. So I would like to get him done, and then I'll start working on all the background here. The next shelf starts about here, so that's sort of as high as I will go, and then we'll start filling in this area and coming over. But I want to put the little man in because I think getting him in will help sort of have a little marker, because it's max coverage, so max color, so of course there is a lot of confetti, but also it's like brickwork, and I think even on the regular version it still will be really confetti heavy to give the effect of the brickwork. So that is Grand Library. Next piece is a new start. So Laura from Stitching by the Shore and Beth the Steadfast Stitcher started a SAL for this. This is Leela Studio, Summer Quaker. So they started a SAL, and a lot of us have jumped on to do this. This is a pattern that came out at Market this year. And I chose to do a center start because when I say I'm playing margin chicken, for me, that's like I don't have 3 inches. I don't necessarily think we need 3 inches to finish it, but somehow, especially with hand dye fabrics, if they're not dyed, well, if the holes shrink, or it's not cut straight, or things that might affect, I like to make, that's why the 3 inches in that way, like even if it's cut poorly and I have 2 inches like on one side, it's fine. But I think having 1 inch is probably too little, especially, if you're going to frame it. So I chose to do a center start with this. So basically, obviously I haven't done any of this. The sailboat goes right here. So these are the waves that are coming along here. This is a 32 count even weave, colorway, Winter Winds. I don't know the dyer. It wasn't on the tag when I got it. And I picked up this fabric at the cupboard in Fort Lauderdale. So having a lot of fun with this. hope to get a chance to pick it up again. I did work on it for 2 days, posted it in the group, but then I didn't have a chance to, I had a chance to pick it up again. And it's hard to see right now, but there is another starting a little bit of, so these are like the waves, and then down here is that ocean scene. So this is sort of the top of the ocean scene. The blue itself really does go into the fabric, but the light blue doesn't. It's surrounded by, the whole bottom is full coverage, and all this light blue is surrounded by other colors. So I'm not so worried about it fading into the fabric. All right, the next piece I worked on, which required a lot of more stitches than I thought it would. Well, I shouldn't say that. I knew it was going to require a lot. But that is Huckleberry Farm, the blue flower. I am working with a group of friends. We have dubbed ourselves the Determined Stitchers. We've taken the idea from other Flosstubers to take any chart, so we all have our own charts, break it up into 12 pieces, and try and do a piece every month. And then we just encourage each other. We have a messenger chat that we encourage each other to say, hey, did you hit your goals? Some people are just flying through and they're like, yeah, I completed my September goal. Other people are like, yeah, I'm still in February. And that's okay. This is all about, it's your own pace, your own goals. And I set out my goals. I have a little sticky note that I broke out everything that I needed to do. Some people draw lines in their patterns, and that wasn't really how I wanted to do it. I've rearranged what I am doing each month because I realized I'm off somewhere over here. And so I wanted to leave the vines until I got more stuff in here. So I did the house this month, and I knew this, I thought, okay, I knew this was a big mama jama, but also a lot of repetitive stitching. And I almost completed the house. Here's where it is. I was also very happy. I was talking to someone on some a Zoom that someone had done, and she had said she didn't know what she had done, but she had done quite a bit of the house and realized that she had started it in totally in the wrong place, and to the point that it just wasn't going to work. And so she had to rip it all out. I counted. I am correct on the point, whatever stitch I had to be, as well as on the correct point. The house is correctly spaced between this motif and this motif. It was one off. I wouldn't care, obviously, but you don't want the house on top of the mountains. Have your house on top of bees. That would not be good. My sad thing is what you can see here is that where you see the fabric coming through, that is supposed to be stitched. It's the colorway Chestnut. And I know I've had Chestnut because this bear over here, his body was done in Chestnut. But where my skein of Chestnut went, I don't know. It is an overdyed floss, and I am not doing it on any other project. And so I originally thought just use the DMC equivalent, but there are other motifs again. And I'm not so worried about the shutters on the house, but I think there's another bear that requires it, and I do want that. It's a Weeks Dye Works color. And I have to say, well, I'm not a big fan of Weeks Dye Works because it knots up badly for me. I was doing the yellow here, which is lichen. I was doing that this morning, and it wasn't just a knot. It was in one space, 4 knots together, and had to, it just does that to me. I mean, I can knot up any thread to begin with, but this was particularly bad. So anyhow, but I really do like the subtle modeling, or the settling variegation, I should say, that you get in Weeks Dye Works. That it's not, I don't feel you end up with that stripy look that you can get with some others. And but there is a change. It's not just total uniformity. As I'm stitching with and you can barely see it, but you can see it's a little bit darker over here than it is over here, but it's not such a huge contrast. And that's the way it would be on a house, that depending on, the elements and the rain and the sun and all that kind of thing, that you might have some shuttle, if there was a tree here, it might have shaded it a little bit more. You would have that on a house, especially an old pretty house like this. And I think Weeks does capture that really well. I just wish it would not up so much. So anyhow, that is Huckleberry Farm. So I am going to keep searching for it. I'm not sure the last time I used it, and if the last time was on that one bear I showed you, that could have been a year or two ago. This was Well, no. Yeah, it could have been 2021 I did it, so it could have been 2 years ago, but who knows. But I will keep looking for it, and if not, I will go get another skein. Anyhow, the last piece I have, and that was stitched on a 32 count linen from Picture This Plus, and I believe the color is Whimsy. Last piece I have to show you, which I show almost every video. This is Cats in the Toy Box. Artwork by Leslie Ann Ivory, charted by Heaven and Earth Design. This is a regular color. And here is where I am. And thank you to everyone who told me what this horse is called. It's a rolly horse, and it is not meant to be ridden on, but just meant to sort of be dragged along. So thank you to those who helped me with my toy etymology. What's the word? Anyhow, the correct names of toys. Because, that's a teddy bear. I can handle that. Other things, not as good. So anyhow, I did some of the brown that's in the basket here. I did quite a bit of orange on the back of the horse. A little bit here. You can start to see some of the definition of the wooden wheel. So it's no longer a flat thing. I have not been getting any more This Violates Community Standards on Facebook. So whatever it thought it was, either Facebook has fixed itself or Facebook has, I've done enough stitching that whatever it thought it was, it no longer thinks it is. So anyhow, but having so much fun with this one and looking forward to get it finished this year. I think I'm at like 87% now. So really excited. And this is just 18 count off-white Ada. So that is all the stitching I have to show you. I actually do not have any purchases to show you. And so that is really all I have for the stitching. I will say I have one book to talk about. So if you're just here for the stitching, thank you for stopping by. If you're interested to hear my one book, please stay by. Please stay. So the book I have to show you, and I so often talk about books and don't have anything to show, but this one, I still have the book from the library because I finished it this morning. This is Trust. I think you say that name is Hernan Diaz. But sorry, I'm trying not to get a glare there. This is a very structurally interesting book, and that is the only way I can describe it. And I'm going to put the book down because it gets tiring holding it for a while. Just wanted to show you the cover. This one, actually the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 2022, when it was longlisted for the Booker Prize, which is a British award. And basically, the whole thing is one novel, but the way that it's written, the first quarter of the book maybe is basically a roman à clef about a financier in the first part of the 20th century, sort of his rise, sort of after World War I through the 20s, and then the stock market crash, and how he was able to ride it out, and his relationship with his wife, who in the roman à clef is basically suffers from mental illness, has a mental breakdown. They go to Switzerland and she passes away. And it goes back through sort of his childhood, his history, and her childhood and her history. So that's sort of, and you jump right into that. Like you don't have any more explanation. And then that's maybe 100 pages. Well written, but very sort of basic story. And then you get sort of the next part of the overall novel, which is someone who is trying to write his autobiography, but someone who is not a writer. And it's very clear that it is the person who the male author is, like the male main character is his persona, but it's the real person trying to correct the story. So he's trying to write his own autobiography, but it's all about self-aggrandizement. And then the third part is basically he realizes he can't write his autobiography because he's not a writer. So he hires a ghostwriter and sort of telling his story to her, and she has to write it. And then the fourth part is a discovered journal of his wife, and trying to parse out what actually happened. I mean, the whole thing is a novel, so none of this happened. But trying to parse out, you have 4 different points of view, and how do you figure out what actually happened. And it's just very cleverly done because he has the author, Hernan Diaz, has 4 different voices that he has to, capture, 4 different writing styles. And I think he does a really, really good job of it. And sort of gets behind why the financier was so determined to correct the record, because he says, yes, his wife went to Switzerland and died, but she had cancer. She didn't have mental health issues. But it's clear that there's much more to the story than just trying to correct that record. And it's just very well written. There were a couple parts in the book where I was like, that I thought was a little bit of embellishment to the story that took away from the overall story, like it wasn't necessary. But those were very minor, and I thought it was just a very well-crafted book. So if you're looking for something different to read, not necessarily light read, but not a super heavy read either. Trust. There's the book again by Hernan Diaz. And with that is all I have today. A shorter video for me. I'm sorry that Cayo wouldn't cooperate. She's down on the floor again, but I know if I try and show her, she's going to get upset. So I'm just going to let her be. We need to, she doesn't want to appear on social media. So be it. Got to respect boundaries. So with that, happy stitching, and I hope to see you again towards the middle of July.